Hey everybody, and welcome back to another installment of my 70s series of the week videos. Uh, the title I'm going to focus on this week was kind of inspired by another great YouTuber on here, Damien, Sleep Period 666. He had actually gotten an act of kindness, I guess, from somebody in Ireland, and he had shown one of the books in this series, and I thought that would be a fun little series to do. Series I'm talking about is the first issue special, and this is it lasted 13 issues, and this was one of those books sort of like Showcase or Brave and Bold or like Marvel Spotlight or Marvel Premiere, just kind of showcased a different character. Except in this series, I mean, there were no two-parters. I mean, it was like one and done. And it's one of those books that I never did really get to complete the whole run when I was a kid. And kind of an aside here, if these videos that I'm showing seem kind of DC heavy or DC oriented, it's because really I didn't really get into collecting Marvel till like 4 or 5 years into my comic collecting. But I do have some series of Marvels lined up. But really, I have more DC stuff, readily at hand. But I call this series what you would call maybe a little mini gold mine, maybe some unknown gems. I say a lot of you are probably familiar with most of this stuff. But it was just a great little series. It was different, like I say, one and done story. You didn't have to, it wasn't a multi-parter, or you had to buy 12 issues to get a story wrapped up or whatever. But this one kind of speaks for itself. This is pretty much all Jack Kirby, except for the inker. I think the inker was on the cover, and the interior was D. Bruce Berry. And if anybody can tell me something else that this guy inked besides Kirby, I'd sure like to know, because I haven't really done any research, but I don't know. I really don't know of anything else, that I have where I remember seeing his name as an inker. But I really liked his ink. I probably liked his inking probably as much as I did Mike Royer on Kirby stuff. But cool little character, Atlas, and it's your basic Kirby 70s, sock 'em up book, fun little title. I think about the only other time that I saw this character, I think he popped up in Kingdom Come. I don't think he had any dialogue, but I always thought it was like a really cool visual, but a nice little package. Can't go wrong with Kirby. Number 2, introducing the Green Team, the Boy Millionaires. The only other time that I can think, I think they started another series of this title with the New 52. I may or may not have bought the first issue, and if I did, I can't remember if it was any good or what it was about. This was another Joe Simon creation, Joe Simon and Jerry Grandinetti. I can't really, nothing really sticks out about this. I mean, I reread all these issues, but, like I say, not much. Fun little concept, Boy Millionaires. Really cool cover, though. Okay. Like I say, there's some hidden gems in here, and I know one that you guys will all know, but it's not really a hidden gem. But this is like what I would call one of the hidden gems. This is number 3, featuring Metamorpho, the Element Man, with great Ramona Fradon art in it. I think she was actually the one that did a lot of Metamorpho series in the 60s. Just a great cover there. I always loved her art. And if I'm not mistaken, I think this was written by Bob Haney, who, as most of you DC guys know, wrote like the bulk of the Brave and Bold team-ups. And, Bob really didn't worry about continuity too much, but he really wrote some fun little stories. So, cool little book there. This was probably like the hardest one to find when I started looking for it, and now that I have it, probably 2 or 3 issues of it. I look on eBay and everywhere else, and they're plentiful. So, but issue 4 was a Lady Cop. This was basically night nurse in a cop uniform. Nothing real special about it. Got a great Dick Giordano and Terry Austin cover. I think Robert Kanigher actually wrote it. And the story was by John Rosenberger and Vince Colletta on the art. I think Rosenberger did a lot of stuff on the like Lois Lane and Supergirl, and in the 70s, and a lot of stuff in Superman family title. So, little oddball book. And for the most part, most of these issues are really cheap. So if anybody's trying to complete a run, it should be pretty simple. Another one of my favorites. Probably got 3 or 4 copies of this. Issue number 5 featuring Manhunter. Another great Kirby package. Pretty much the same as issue 1. Kirby and Barry on the inks. And I think this is actually the first appearance of Mark Shaw as the Manhunter, and later on in the Justice League, I think like in Justice League 140 of the original series, he actually showed up as a character called the Privateer. So you JLA fans will probably remember that. He kind of a swashbuckling outfit with the eye patch and maybe a sword, and he was another character dressed up like a star called the Star Tazar. So yeah, you would have to really be a GLA fan to remember that. But yeah, he showed up here, and I think later in the late 80s, he had his own title as Manhunter. But another cool little Kirby package. This cover I always loved this cover, but kind of creeped me out when I was a kid. And this has got an appearance by the Grandmaster in it. And I think this and some other oddball Kirby stuff is reprinted in the Jack Kirby omnibuses that DC put out. So, nice little book there. Okay, this is the only copy I got of this, and I need to upgrade it. Issue number 6, another Kirby creation. Dingbats of Danger Street. I think this is included in the Kirby Omnibus a few years ago, and I think they actually showed up in the late 80s in the Superman series, like 538 and 549, and I think they were in the 2011 incarnation of Brave and Bold in a story or two. But this is basically just another take on Kirby's fixation on kid gangs. Newsboy Legion, Yancey Street Gang, Boy Commandos. It's all pretty much the same thing. But a fun little book. And like I say, I believe it's Kirby and Royer on this one. So, number 6. Number 7, another little hidden gem. One of my favorite characters from DC, the Creeper. And the cover, I think Carmine Infantino did the layouts, and I think Steve Ditko and Al Milgrom actually did the finishes on this. And I think it was Ditko and Royer actually on the interior art. So you had Mike Royer inking Steve Ditko. So you have a character, I'm not sure if that was his first appearance, but a character called the Firefly. And this has also got appearances by Scarecrow and Two-Face in it. So for Ditko fans and Creeper fans, and as far as I know, this issue is still pretty cheap too. Okay, number 8. This is the one everybody knows. First appearance of Warlord. One of my favorite characters. I love Mike Grell's art. This is some of the art-wise. I think this is some of the best stuff that he ever did. At least before Vince Colletta got a hold of it and started doing the inking. But really, I didn't know until later. The first time I saw Warlord was like in issue 2. I bought it off the stands. And I didn't know for years that, until I was reading in a letter column, that this was actually the first appearance of Warlord. So this was not one of the originals that I bought as a kid. But I did get it fairly cheap later on. I think I got like 3 copies of it in a lot for like $15. This is probably one of my best copies. But just, just a great story, great art. It's all Mike Grell. First appearance of Tara, his mate, and Demos. This was in November '75, and I think Warlord 1 came out in January of '76. And actually, they had canceled this the Warlord title, and I think Carmine Infantino stepped down, and Jeanette Kahn took over. And I think later on that year, like in October, she put it back on the schedule. So they had actually canceled Warlord after the first issue or two, which was, in my opinion, kind of stupid because this was a great little book, Number 8. Okay, number 9. This is probably my favorite of the whole series, and I think I've talked about this issue before. It's got, everything other than some reprints and some JLA, JSA team-ups. This was like my first real exposure, or one of my main exposures to this character. Number 9, featuring Dr. Fate. Got an amazing-looking Joe Kubert cover. I think Martin Pascoe did the scripts on this, and you have Walt Simonson on the art, so you cannot go wrong. Excuse me. I think his origin is retold, and I think it's got a cameo like his father, and the villain is fighting. It's called Anubis, and there's an appearance by Naboo, Lord of Order. But just it was a whole lot different from a lot of comics. At least a lot of comics DC was putting out at the time, so it was a little bit more serious in tone. Characterization was great, and the art was great. This gets my highest recommendation right here. First issue, Special 9, and I think you can still probably get this pretty cheap. And I think this was, they had his tower, I believe it was set in Boston. And it has some real good interplay between him and his wife, Enza, Kent Nelson, and Enza Nelson. So, my favorite of the run. Number 10, really nothing special about this one, The Outsiders. This is not The Outsiders with Batman, and this is not the movie version. It's just some freaks that kind of got thrown together in this story. Got an Ernie Chan cover. This is more Joe Simon and Jerry Grandinetti. I think Craig Fleisel did the inks. Nothing real special about this unless you just, you're like me and you like oddball books. But the cover, Ernie Chan, so we'll take it. Issue 11, Codename Assassin. As far as I know, this is the first and only appearance of this character in DC continuity. I could be wrong. But it's got a really nice Mike Grell cover. I never really figured out what was going on here with that stuff. I don't know if he was floating on the air, and in the book he's basically just a normal guy with some weapons, But I think Jerry Conway and Steve Skeets did the script, and the art on the interior was by the Redondo Studio, and Al Milgrom on the inks. Okay. This is another one of my favorites from the run, issue 12. First appearance of this version of Starman. Nice Joe Kubert cover. I think Jerry Conway did the script on this one too. And this and the last issue, the pencils were by Mike Vosberg. I think Mike Royer inked him in this. And this was the, I guess his name, it looked like Michael Thomas or Mikhail Thomas was the guy's name. He was an alien, and there was like a bounty hunter coming to chase him. And I think this is the only time you see this guy until he shows up, probably almost 20 years later in the 1994 Starman series, which is probably the highlight of the 90s in my opinion. He showed back up like in issue 3 of that, or 2 or 3 of that Starman series. And then I think he was actually part of the Justice League. There was like a mini-series a few years ago called JLA, or Justice League Cry for Justice, and he was part of that crew. But pretty, really interesting story. Got some great art in it by Mike Vosberg. As I've talked about Mike, and he's one of my favorite unsung artists. Really like his stuff. And I'm sure a lot of you have seen this one. The last issue kind of reintroduces the New Gods, issue 13. Really great Dick Giordano cover. I think Jerry Conway and Denny O'Neil are the authors of this one, and this is all Mike Vosberg. And this is the first appearance of the New Gods, I guess as a book or a team, since the issue 11 that Kirby did. And then they restarted the series with issue 12, and it went through 19. And I'll probably be featuring New Gods in a video for too long. But this is a nice little introduction. You got a great covering, got some great art. I'm thinking in the when the New Gods restarted with issue 12, there was a lot of great art in it. I think Don Newton did a lot of art. Rich Buckler and Bob McLeod were in on that too. But I always liked when Dick Giordano he put his initials, and you can kind of see the little G inside the D for Dick Giordano. So every so often, and the DC stuff he did anyway, I mean, you would see that. Okay, guys, that's all I got. Like I say, great little series. Nothing is really going to be real prized except maybe number 8. But yeah, just a fun little series to collect. Hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did showing it. And I will be with you again very soon with another one. And I've got several lined up. I'm not sure which one I'm going to show. But anyway, as always, onward and upward.